Grossman is there.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming and joining us for the learning of Teres Hashem. Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach. We are co-sponsored by the Rizepkowitz family in honor of their parents. We're co-sponsored by Mr. and Mrs. Eddie Chazan. The Refuah Shalema for Yedidia Bas Penina, Shoshana Bas Penina, Simon Bas Rachel. We're co-sponsored by Binyamin Rivlin, Lila Nishmas Yitzchak Ben Avraham Yehuda Levi, by Shili Zeitlin for his children Eli, Orit, and Ora, by Shalom Fogel, Lila Nishmas Yaakov Zeb Ben Yehuda Aryeh, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tzivya Miriam Bas Gad, Yosef Ben Tziyam Ben Yaakov Zev, and by Berak Gowasel, Refuah Shalema for Moshe Meir Ben Esther Fadel, and Dov Meir Ben Chaya Gittel. They should have a Refuah Shalema B'Sei Shechel Yisrael, and Akaris Hatay for the Shir. Really good to have everybody here this evening. As
even me.
Yeah, even you. Even you. And it's nice to start off the evening with already 31 Zoomers before we even get to start. We are holding at the last words on the bottom of Peites Amud Beis, and we welcome in Irving Fishbaum, Saba, Eddie Chazan, Yaakov Warman, Menachem Limansky, Yisrael Fisher, Baruch Ian, Yitzhak Fuchs, Chaim Kramer, Shelley Zeitlin, Shimon Klein, Mark Frankel, Rabbi Kranz, Ben Zion Cohn, Shalom Fogel, Dr. Guy, Reuven Pollack, Barry Cement, Marshall Castle, Elio Yaffe, Mo Kushner, Barish Gesserman, Naftali Jablin, Moshe Lehman, Elia Shutman, Nachman Chapler, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, Avram Rezepkowitz, Yitzi Muller, Abe Arbach, David Helfgott, and Karl Loshen. Here in the shul, we have Ruvain Shanit, we have Shlomi Yehuda, and Michal Avram had just come in. So, Amar Rav Chisda, and now we start the top of, what a wonderful daf, the daf of Tzaddik. And we are all tzaddikim if we're sitting down to learn every night. That's the stuff of tzaddikim. The machlokes between Rabbanan and Rabbi Shimon, whether there is a skila or chenek, that machlokes is, and now we have going to have a machlokes of the parameters of the machlokes. Machlokes ba'oker aguf d'avodas kechavim. If a prophet says that there's no prohibition of idolatry, or v'kiyam miktzas ubital miktzas d'avodas kechavim, or he says that there's some veracity to avodah zarah, but some is fake. D'Rachmana Amar, because the Torah says that he should be punished even if he goes, the pasuk says, Ma'naviyahu Chaloimahu Yumas Kidiba Sara al Hashem Alakim. He spoke bad, Ladichacha Minaderech, to push you off the road, and Minaderech is afilu mixas aderech, even part of the road. However, aval oiker aguf d'shar mitzvahs, but if the Navi tells you to be ma'aker other mitzvahs, like he says that there's no mitzvah of shatnez, divra kol b'chenek, v'kiyah mitzvahs ubitul mitzvahs to b'shar mitzvahs. If he just is mekayim part of a mitzvah and is mevatel part of the mitzvah, that divrei hakol poter, that he's not chayiv misa. Mosiv Rav Hamnuna, so Rav Hamnuna asks, how could you say, it says in the pasuk of where it says avodah zarah, it says there also where the Navi takes you from the derech kasher tzivcha Hashem alekecha leleches ba. So leleches zu mitzvahs asay, that's a positive command. Ba zu mitzvahs lois asay. So how could you say that the pasuk is talking only about avodah zarah? The isal gedaitach ba'avodas kechavim, asay ba'avodas kechavim eichi mishkacha. So where do you have a mitzvah say a positive command by avodah zarah? So Rav Chisda answers, Tirgum Rav Chisda v'nitatzdan. The mitzvah of destroying idols is a mitzvah say by avodah zarah. We have a mitzvah to destroy the idols. Rav Amnuna Amar, Rav Amnuna says, Machloikis ba'oikir aguf. The machloikis is where Rav Amnuna disagrees with Rav Chisda. Rav Amnuna says the machloikis between the Reb Shimon and Rabbanan, whether this skila or chenek, is b'machloikis ba'oikir aguf, where one uproots entirely, bein b'avodas kechavim, bein b'shar mitzvahs. Whether he uproots entirely idolatry or other mitzvahs. V'kiyah mixes or bitul mixes d'avodas kechavim, or if he uproots part, because the Torah says min haderech. D'rachmanan omer min haderech, afilu mixes haderech. Aval kiyah mixes or bitul mixes to b'shar mitzvahs, but if he just does away partially with a mitzvah, divrei hakol pater, there's no death sentence. Now, we're going to now have a teaching that seems to cause a problem with all of these opinions. Well, let's see this inside. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'hakol niyeh b'dvaro. Tana Rabbana, hamisnabe laka dovim min haTorah, one who prophesizes to uproot something from the Torah, chayiv. The kayim mixes or the vatal mixes, to uphold part and to be mevatel part, Reb Shimon poiter. Uba'avodas kechavim, by idolatry, afilu omer hayom ivdua, even if he says worship it today, ulamacher bitlua, and tomorrow nullify it. So that's kiyah mixas bitul mixas. Divrei hakol chayiv. Now it seems to be this is completely not the way we learned, because we learned that l'kayim mixes or levatel mixes by other mitzvahs everybody partas, and here it says only Reb Shimon partas. Also, we learned that a misnabe laker dovim min haTorah, when somebody is misnabe to uproot something from the Torah, according to Rav Amnuna, he holds that there's a machlokes over there between Reb Shimon and Rabbanan. So that's a problem. And by avodas kechavim with kiyah mixes or bitul mixes, we learned that it's a machlokes Rabbanan and Reb Shimon again, if it's skila or it's chenek, and here it just says divrei hakol chayiv. So the Gemara says it's not a problem. We just need some fancy little amendments, and we could explain it both according to Reb Chisda and according to Reb Shimon. And according to Reb Amnuna. Abaye savalak Reb Chisda. Abaye holds like Reb Chisda, or metaritz like Reb Chisda, and amends the brisa to fit in with Reb Chisda's opinion. V'Rava savalak Reb Amnuna, and Rava holds like Reb Amnuna, metaritz like Reb Amnuna, and it amends it to Reb Amnuna's opinion. And now the Gemara shows how to do it. You just need a little insertions. Abaye savalak Rav Chisda, metaritz like Rav Chisda. Remember, Rav Chisda holds that by the machlokes between Rabban and Reb Shimon is only by avodah zarah. So he'll say, "Hamisnabe lakar dovim min haTorah." If you're misnabe to oikr something from the Torah, different mitzvah, divrei hakol b'chenek. L'kayim mixes or levatel mixes, to be Mekayim part of it and to be Mevatel part of it. Reb Shimon Paiter, Reb Shimon is Paters, and the same thing is true with Rabbanan. That's, you have to ad-lib that. Vadin Rabbanan. But Avodas Kechavim, even if it's partial, Afilu Amar Hayom Ivdu Al Macha B'Teila Chayiv. But what Chayiv? Ma'akadeh Yisrael, according to Rabbanan, it's Skila, or Ma'akadeh Yisrael, according to Reb Shimon, it's Chenek. Rava Savala Karav Amnuna, Rava holds like the opinion of Rav Huna, or Matarzla Karav Amnuna, again he has to amend words into the Brisa. HaMisnabe Laker Dovim in HaTorah, if you prophesize to uproot something in the Torah, Bein B'Avodas Kechavim, Bein B'Shar Mitzvahs, whether to be Eiker the Torah by directing people to idolatry, or whether to uproot a mitzvah, Chayiv, but depending who you hold, like Market Islay or Market Islay, according to Rabbanan it's Skila, according to Reb Shimon it's Chenek. L'kayim mixes of Levatel mixes, B'Shar mitzvahs, Reb Shimon Paiter, and the same thing is true for the Rabbanan, V'uadin Rabbanan. Uba'achtoidis kechavim afilu amar hayom yavdua, worship it today, or l'macher bitlua, and tomorrow negate it, which is kia mixes, bittul mixes. Again, that will be a machlokes, Rabbanan or Reb Shimon, chayiv market Islay, according to Rabbanan it's skilo, market Islay, and according to Reb Shimon it's chenek. Amar Rabbi Avo, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Bekolim yoimelach navi avor al divrei Torah. In any area, if the Navi says that temporarily you should transgress something in divrei Torah, shamalai, listen to him. If he's a Navi muhzak, if he's a known Navi, like by Eliyahu, by Har HaKarmel, where we bought kachim b'chutz. Chutz me'avodas kechavim, except for idolatry, she'afilu ma'amid lo chama be'emtza rekia, even if he makes the sun stand in the middle of the sky, and he tells you, look, that's a sign, and you should worship the sun, or you should worship an idol, al tishmalai. Similarly, we learned, Tanya Rabbi Yisek Lili Aimer, Higia Torah l'seif daita shel avodas kechavim. The Torah foresaw the temptation of idolatry. Lefikach nasna Torah memshalaba. The Torah gave domination over it. Shafilu, that even if a minister of the idolatry says a sign, and he's mamad lachama b'emtzarakia, and he causes the sun to stand in the middle of the sky, al tishmalai. Rabbi Akiva says no false prophet would have the power to cause the sun to stand in the middle of the sky. Tanya Amar Rabbi Akiva chas v'shalom she'HaKadosh Baruch Hu ma'amid chama l'over ritzayna. God forbid that Hashem would cause the sun to stand for somebody that transgresses. However, there could be a situation where a person was a Navi Emes, and when he was a Navi Emes, he was able to do a sign, and then he turned sour and he became a Navi Sheker. Ela Kagain Chananya ben Azur, Shemitchilasai Navi Emes, initially he was a true prophet, Ulabesayf Navi Sheker, and then he went sour.
That's just as bad.
What?
It's the same thing.
No, because when he turned the sun, when he caused the sun to stand in the middle of the sky, he was a Navi Emes.
Oh, but he didn't say, I'm going to show you a sign and...
No, but because he stood the sign, you might think now to listen to him to do idolatry.
Why would he go off like that? I mean, being an MS, Navi MS, what would he gain from it?
Now, what would he gain? We know that there was a great Kohen Gadol, Yochanan Kohen Gadol, that after 80 years became a Tzedoki. The greater a person is, the greater the Yetzer Hara is. That's the way it works. Ask Marshall.
I prophesied we could eat cheese dogs until Pesach.
Now,
Didn't that put people in a precarious situation where they would have a Novi MS and then he turns.
Right. Well, that's why we have to have these rules. That's why we have the rule that no Navi can be listened to tell you to worship idolatry. So now, the end of the Mishnah told us that Zayma me bas Kayim. Here we have our two worst witnesses, Marshall and Eddie, and they say that a Bas Kayin committed adultery with Chatzkel. And it turns out that Marshall and Eddie were on Dubai on that day. So they're Edom Zaymim. Now, in the case where Chatzkel committed adultery with the Bas Kayin, Chatzkel gets strangled, Chenek, and the Bas Kayin gets Sreifa. Now, what do we give Eddie and Marshall? Do we give them chenek or do we give them sreifa?
Bourbon.
So we would say the rule is generally that you give the worst. Right? So we should say we should burn them. I heard Barry say it, burn them. I heard Barry say that. Right?
Barry.
But we deduce from the fact vasisim loy kashezamim lasais la'achiv, you should do to him like you wanted to do to his brother. It would have been enough to say vasisim loy kashezamim lasais. The word achiv says if it's a man and a woman, we do like you want to do to the man. So therefore they wanted to give chatzkel chenek, so therefore they get chenek and not burnt. That's it's a big relief to Marshall. A
really good bourbon.
And it's an anomaly. Also, it's an anomaly. Remember, Marshall, less is more.
Is less not share with us?
Bourbon is called Yain Saraf.
Right. It's also an anomaly that normally when a man and a woman are forbidden to each other, they get the same death sentence. This is an exception, that the woman gets reifa and the man gets chenek, because it's the woman that defiled her father's house, the Kohanik home. So let's see this all in the Gemara. Zayim me bas kayin, the Marshall and Eddie, they get chenek. Minani mili. Amar Rav Achbar Rav Ika the Tanya Rav Yossi Amar Matam Loim Rav Asisim Lo Kasher Zamim La'asais La'achiv. What's the lashon of La'achiv? It should say Vasisim Lo Kasher Zamim La'asais. Lefi Shekol Zamanim Shebetayra. All those that are found to have been Edom Zaymemehem or Bayalehem Kayotze Behem. The one that becomes Zaymimim, the Edom that were in Dubai, and the one who slept with the forbidden relationship is the same as the woman he slept with. Bas Kayin hi b'sreifa, she gets burnt. Ve'ein bayala b'sreifa, the one who sleeps with her gets chenek. Zaymimin ein yodeya, therefore the Marshall and Eddie, we don't know. Im loy hukshu, if we compare to him and give them chenek. Im lo hukshu, or we say to her and give them sreifa. Kishu ayma lasais la'achiv, to the brother, la'achiv alay la'achaisai. So therefore we say that we compare to the man and we give them chenek and we don't give them sreifa. Hadron Allah Eloheina nechnachin. We will return Mitzvah Hashem to Eloheina nechnachim. Hadron Allah Eloheina nechnachin. Hadron Allah Eloheina nechnachim. And now, Baruch Shechiyanu v'kimanu v'giyanu l'azman hazeh, to start one of the most famous prakim in Shas.
Man, that last parrot killed me.
You weren't paying attention. We killed you before that parrot. The Marshall, you know, he keeps on coming back from the dead.
Just like all of us.
That wasn't okay.
You know,
Mark, that's you than me.
you know something? Nobody has been killed as many times as Barry. And he just keeps on coming back. He just keeps on coming back. That's my share. My share, they keep on coming back from the grave.
My idol.
Anyway,
He's my Avodah Zarah.
now,
Ketchkaberry.
okay.
Let's learn. Mute him.
Kol Yisrael, yesh lem chelik lo'olam haba. All of Klal Yisrael is a portion in the afterlife. Now, this is a really very reassuring statement that, except for the exceptions that we have here in the Mishnah, all of Klal Yisrael will eventually get a portion in Olam Haba. That's one of the reasons why we're called Yidden, because the Gemara Menachos says that Hashem created Olam Haba with a Yud, created Olam Hazeh with a Hey, and Olam Haba with a Yud. So therefore, we're all Yidden, because we all have a chelik in Olam Haba. The famous question that they ask is, it says Kol Yisrael yesh lem chelik le'olam haba. Why doesn't it say be'olam haba? Why does it say grammatically? It would seem to be more correct to say Kol Yisrael yesh lem chelik be'olam haba, in olam haba, not le'olam haba. And the answer they say is that we all have a chelik is a plot of land. We all have a plot of land in Olam Haba, but we have to plant it. We have to cultivate it. Otherwise, it's going to be barren. And that's why it says Olam Hazeh doima leprois lo lefnei Olam Haba. The Chavetz Chaim was known to say that when somebody learns this, they might think, okay, so I could live a life of sin. I anyway have a chelik in Olam Haba. The Chavetz Chaim says yes, but if you pollute your body so badly with sin, you're going to take that body full of mumin, full of blemishes with you to the next world. And with that body, you won't be able to enjoy Olam Haba. Shenema va'amech kulam tzadikim, your nation is all righteous. La'olam yirshu aretz, they will forever inhabit the land. That means in the next world, which is a world of eternity. Neitzer matoi, the soul, is a branch of my planting, which I planted in this world. Ma'aseh yodai, my handiwork, lispoer, that I will be glorified through. Because when we do mitzvahs, Shem Shemayim Misahev Al Yodecha. However, and this is why it's the last Mishnah in Sanhedrin. First we had the terrible punishments of the 4 types of Misa, and then we have the worst punishment. The following lose their afterlife. The first one is, if a person says that there's no resurrection, so then Hashem says, if you don't believe in it, you don't get it. This is the source in Shas for Mida Keneged Mida. Source in Shas for Mida Keneged Mida is a person loses his Tchiyas HaMesim because he doesn't believe in the resurrection. And that's why the very first thing we affirm in Shemona Esrei is V'ne'emonata la'achar Yos Mesim. We always say 3 times a day that we are a believer. You are believed to resurrect the dead. The next thing that a person loses his afterlife is if a person says that there is no divinity to the Torah. That Moshe Rabbeinu wrote the Torah. That Torah is not divine. That's why we're supposed to remember all the time one of the Sheish Zechiros is Maimed Har Sinai, and we have to believe that Torah is divine. The apikairis, and apikairis is one who makes disgraces and disparages a Talmud Chacham, makes hefker of a Talmud Chacham. Rabbi Kiva Aimer Afakaire Biswar Machitzainim, one who reads the books of the minim, of the heretics. V'aloichesh alamaka, one who uses the words of Torah as an incantation. V'aimer, and says over a wound, the pasuk of Kalamachla Asher Samtim Mitzrayim Lo Yosem Alecha, all the disease that I put on Mitzrayim I will put on you. Ki Ani Hashem Roifecha, he uses the words of Torah as an incantation. If he pronounces the Yud Kei Vav Kei. Now, the Rishonim ask, but we know that there are other things that are Ein Lehem Chelik L'Olam Haba. The first thing that comes to our mind is Hamalbim Tnei Chaveroi Barabim Ein Lehem Chelik L'Olam Haba. And the Mefarshim say, yes, but that's only, as the Meiri says, if it's done habitually. If it's done regularly. These things a person could lose their Olam Haba even one time. Now, the Mishnah tells us...
Is there tshuva on this?
Yes. Yes, there is. Now, the Mishnah tells us that... The Mishnah tells us now powerful historical facts. Shloisha Malachim, 3 kings, Va'arba Hedyotis, and 4 commoners. Although they were well vested with a lot of Torah knowledge, Ein Lehem Chelik L'Olam Haba, they still lost their afterlife. The 3 kings, Shloisha Malachim, was Yeravam ben Nevat, that split with Rechavam, the kingship of David HaMelech, and because he didn't want Klal Yisrael to see Rechavam sitting in the Azara, in the temple courtyard, when he couldn't sit in the temple courtyard because he wasn't from the Davidic dynasty, he blocked them from going Aliyah L'Regel and set up idols, 2 idols, and to worship instead. Achav, who introduced the idolatry of Baal, or Menashe, and the idolatrous son of Chizkiyahu HaMelech, King Menashe. Rabbi Yehuda Imer Menashe yesh lo chelik l'olam haba. Menashe does have a portion in the afterlife. Shenema v'yispalol elav. It says that Menashe prayed to Hashem, v'yishma tchinasai, and Hashem listened to his supplication. V'yeshiveyu Yerushalayim u'malchusai, and he returned him to Yerushalayim, to his throne. So Amrulai, the Rabbanan said yes, l'malchusa yeshiva, he was returned to his throne, but he wasn't returned to the afterlife. The Arba Hedyotis, the 4 commoners, were Bilam, Dayek, who was a great Talmud Chacham, but he was Shaul's advisor, and he advised him to kill David, and through him the city of Nov Irak Kohanim was destroyed. Vachi Teufel, who was a great Talmud Chacham, but joined in the revolt of Avshalom against David, and Gehazi, who was an attendant of Elisha, but he was a wicked man.
But it wasn't because of any of these things in the Mishnah. That was a separate thing. That's what it seems like.
We'll talk about each one separately in the Gemara. You'll have miles of Gemara to discuss that. Huh? No. It mentions Bilam only because he was like Moshe Rabbeinu. He was a Nevuah like Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, the Kol Kach Lama, why should a person lose his afterlife because he says there's no Tchias HaMesim? And by the way, that's why we're so careful to call a cemetery a Beis HaChaim. Beis HaChaim. Cemetery is called the Beis HaChaim. It's called the place of life, because the dead will come to life. That's why we're so careful that Jews know we don't do autopsies, because the body is going to come back to life. So the kol kach lama, why does a person lose his afterlife? Simple, says the Gemara. Tana, who kafar b'tchiyas hamesim, he denies the resurrection. Lefikach lo yeloi chelik b'tchiyas hamesim. Therefore, he won't get tchiyas hamesim. It's a supreme example of midah keneged midah. Shekol midaisim shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. All the ways of Hashem are midah keneged midah. Are measure for measure. The Ran says that the idea of midah keneged midah precludes any element of chance. If somebody does something wrong and just something happens to him, then he could think it's just a random event. But when he sees that it matches his crime, so he sees that it's the hand of Hashem who does schar v'einish. That's what Yisro made a point of noticing. Kibadavar asher zodu, that which they plotted, aleihem, befell the Egyptians. Others say that the midah keneged midah is a way to diagnose one's faults to do tshuva. Because we know if a person sees something bad, yefashvesh b'masav. So with the mechanics of midah keneged midah, he could say, well, why is Hashem giving me canker sores? Maybe because I'm eating things that are not kosher. Or maybe because I'm speaking Lashon Hara. Why am I getting earaches? Oh, I'm listening to Lashon Hara.
Does that mean every death is a midah keneged midah?
What?
Every death that Rebbeinu Shalom does, it's always a midah keneged midah?
Death, no. It might be the person's case. It might be the person's time.
Oh.
So now, Dam Rav Shmuel ben Nachmani Yom Rav Yonason, Minayin shekol midaisav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu midah keneged midah. How do we know that all the traits of Hashem are measure for measure? Shenemar vayomer Elisha shimu dvar Hashem. Elisha said, listen to the word of Hashem. It was a time of great famine. Ka'es machar, but this time tomorrow, saw silas, a saw of flour, will sell for the cheap price of a shekel. B'sasayim sa'irim, and 2 saw of barley b'shekel b'shar Shemron, by the gates of Shemron. Now, at that time, a few pieces of barley were selling for a shekel. 2 saw of barley. V'ksiv ayana sholish, and the attendant, Asher HaMelech Nishan al Yodai, that the king leaned on his hands, said, as Isha Lekim said to Elisha, Vayomer Hinei Hashem oisa arubais b'shamayim. Even if Hashem would make windows open in heaven, Hayir hadavar hazeh, could there so fastly be food that tomorrow will already be a sof for a shekel? Vayomer, and the Navi said, you don't believe it? Hin charaya, you will see it, beinecha o misham lo yisaychel. But because you scoffed at the prophecy, you will not get a chance to eat from it. And this is midah keneged midah. He didn't believe in it, so he won't get it. And the pasuk taka says, "V'ksiv vayiloi came," and it happened so that there was a tremendous amount of food, and there was such a stampede for the food. Vayirmisu oisayam b'shar, they stampeded him at the gate. Vayamas, and he died. So he never got a chance to eat from it. So the Gemara says, who says this is midah keneged midah? Maybe it's just that he was cursed by the Navi. V'dilma kilas Elisha garmalei. Maybe it was the curse of a Navi. No, the curse of a Navi. The curse of a sage. Even if it's undeserved, it's going to happen. Says Im kain lichta vayikra vayirmisu vayamas. He was trampled and he died. My bishar al iske shar, about what he said about the price. And the shar is called the price. So it's midah keneged midah. So now the Gemara says, if tchiyas hamesim is so important, why isn't it mentioned outright in the Torah? Minayin l'tchiyas hamesim in the Torah. If tchiyas hamesim is so mandatory that if we don't believe in it, we won't get it. Why isn't it mentioned in the Torah? Minayin l'tchiyas hamesim in the Torah. Shenemar, it says about Aaron, "Unesatem mimenu es trumas Hashem," you will give the trumas Hashem la Aaron HaKohen. Now the Maisa is Aaron HaKohen never got a chance to be given truma. He died in the midbar. V'chi Aaron lo'ilam kayim, did Aaron live forever? V'aloi lo nichnas l'Eretz Yisrael shenaisen lo truma. He never got a chance to enter into Eretz Yisrael to be given truma. El malamed she'asid lichyois, he destined to live. V'Yisrael naisen lo truma, and Klal Yisrael will later give him truma. Mikan l'tchias hamesim and atayr. The Farshim talk about over here that we see therefore that after tchias hamesim there'll still be mitzvahs. There'll still be the mitzvah of Torah.
I thought we won't be able to eat.
What?
I thought the Kriyas we won't be able
Well,
to
you thought wrong. You're mixing up different oilamos. You're mixing up oilam neshamas and tchias hamesim and oilam haba. By tchias hamesim, you will be able to eat. The Bei Rabbi Yishmael Tana, it's no raya from this pasuk, because when it says Aaron, it means la Aaron means ki Aaron. You give it to Kohanim that are righteous like Aaron. Ma Aaron Chaver, he was careful with the dinim of Truma V'Tara, Tumah V'Tara. Avbanav Chaverim. So only if his children are careful with Tumah V'Tara could you give him Truma. And indeed, Amar Rav Shmuel ben Nachmani, Amar Rav Yonasan, Minayin she'ein noisten Truma l'kohen am haaretz. How do we know that we don't give Truma to a kohen that's an ignoramus? Shenemar v'yaymer la'am l'yoshvei l'Yerushalayim. He said to the people, to the dwellers of Yerushalayim, l'seis menas l'kahan l'leviim l'man yechzuku b'teres Hashem. You give to the Kohanim in Levium those that hold steadfast in the Torah Hashem. Kol ha'mazik b'Torah Hashem, only those that are steadfast with the Torah Hashem, that are careful with the laws of Tumah V'Tara, yesh loy mana, get manas, get a portion. B'she'ein ha'mazik b'Torah Hashem, ein loy manas. Amar Rav Acha bar Ada, Amar Rav Yehuda, kol ha'noisin truma l'kohen am haaretz. If you give truma to a kohen that's an ignoramus, kilu noisna l'fnei ari. It's as if you're putting the truma before a lion. Now a lion, since a lion is the king of the forest, it doesn't feel that it needs to eat, because it could always get food. So a ma'ari, when you put something in front of the lion, safek dairis v'aychel, is a doubt whether he'll claw it and eat it. Safek eina dairis v'aychel, he might not eat it. Af kohen am haaretz, you're not sure if he's going to eat it b'tumah or b'tara. Safek eichel b'tara, safek eichel b'tumah. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, remember we said that to eat truma b'tumah saguf is a mis b'dei shemayim. So if you give truma to a kohen am haaretz, Rabbi Yochanan Amar, af goyim loy misa, you cause him death at the hands of heaven. Shenema meisa by ki yachalalu. One dies if he profanes the truma. The Bei Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Tana af masiyoi avoin ashma. By giving it to him, you cause him to do an iniquity of guilt. Shenema v'siyoi so avan ashma. If you give it to the unlettered, you cause them to sin, ba'ochlem es kachem, when they'll eat your kachim b'tumah. Gemara now returns to the search for a source for tchias hamesim in HaTorah, for a source for the resurrection. So says the Gemara, don't look now, Rabbi say, but we have 36 Zoomers here already.
2 times sky, Baruch Hashem.
Yeah, Baruch Hashem. Good to see you, Richard.
Can't look until I see 50.
I want the island to see that we see Richard. Yeah, you see him. He's real. Richard, Richard, it's great to see you.
Marshall is not a client, so no one has to worry.
Okay, and
Hey, you call me an imbecile, Barry?
I'm calling it a lot worse.
anyway, I want to mention that we lost on Shabbos a Chaver Hadaf of this Daf Yomi, not the Zoom Daf Yomi, but of our Chabura in Staten Island. with the passing of Harvey Greenberg. Harvey Greenberg used to be a member of this daf many, many, many years ago, and he passed away. Today was his levaya. He was a extraordinarily nice human being, and his neshama should have a great aliyah. Actually, I'm going to, let's see, who should I put in charge of this? You know what? Barry, do you know Eli Puro?
I'm not a good candidate, Rabbi Weiss, because during the day sometimes I'm totally out of things.
Shimon, you know Eli, right? Shimon, you know Eli. I spoke to Eli today, and Eli said he's going to try to come on. He was going to try to come on tonight. So he needs a little bit of a push. So maybe, Shimon, you could give him a push. It would be a big thing. Big thing. Huh?
That's the doctor?
Yeah, Dr. Puro.
He used to come to the doctor.
100%. He finished Shas with us. He is the author of something that I say many times in his name. He said, I'm starting to learn Daf Yomi because how many good 7.5 years do I have left? And he started Daf Yomi and he finished Shas that cycle. So, but anyway, I spoke to him today. I gave him the code and everything. He said he's going to try to come on tonight. Of course, you know, it's a big step. So he is fully retired now. So he does have the time to do it. So Shimon, we're going to make you the ambassador. Tanya, Rab Simai Aimer, Minayin L'tchias HaMeisim in HaTorah. How do we know the resurrection from the Torah? Shenema v'gama ki moisi es brisi itam. I will fulfill my covenant with you. L'seis lohem, to give to them as Eretz Canaan. Now the pasuk should say l'seis lochem, to give you the land of Canaan. L'seis lohem means to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, who he made the bris with. Lochem lo nemer el lohem. Here we see the resurrection from the Torah, that Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov will be resurrected and given Eretz Yisrael. Shaluminim es Rabbi Gamliel. The heretics asked Rabbi Gamliel. There is a opinion that says that the word min stands for Maimin Yeshu Noitzri, those that believed in the Nazarene, in Yoshka. And that's where min comes from, Mam and Yeshu Noitzri. But either way, it means a heretic. So Shaluminim es Rabbi Gamliel, Minayin Shakadosh Baruch Hu Mechayim Eisim. Where do we know that Hashem does the resurrection? Amalahem min HaTorah, min HaNeviim, min HaKsuvim. I'll give you sources from the Torah, from the prophets, and from the later prophets. V'lo kiblu mimenu, and they didn't accept any of his proofs. Min HaTorah d'chsiv vayomer Hashem al Moshe. Hashem said to Moshe, Hincha shoichev im avisecha, you're going to go lay down with your fathers. Become and get up. So you see, he's going to get up. Amrulai, they said, well, maybe you're putting the comma in the wrong place, because the pasuk says right afterwards, "Vikam ha'am," and the nation will go v'zana, and they will follow after idols. So Vikam might be going on the Amrulai v'dum v'Vikam ha'am azeh v'zana. The Vikam goes on the next part, that the nation will get up and turn to idols. Min HaNeviim. He brought them a proof from the prophets. Dichsiv yichyu meisecha, your dead will come alive. Nivlosi yukumun, the carcasses will get up. Hekitzu, they will awaken. Virananu, and sing. Sheichnei afa, the dwellers of the earth. Kital oirais talecha, for the dew of Torah is your dew. The eretz reform tapel, and the lands of the reform will fall. So they said, well, maybe that's talking about the specific Mesim, the Atzamas HaYaveshim, that were brought to life by Yecheskel. The Dilma Mesim Shehichya Yecheskel, not future Trias HaMesim. Min HaKsuvim, D'chsiv v'chikech, and the words of your palate are Kiyayin HaTov, like goodly wine, It goes to my beloved with straightness. It causes the lips of the sleeping to move. We know that Torah is the source of Tchias HaMeisim, because it says, Tal oirois talecha. The dew of your light, Ein Ara L'Torah, is talecha, is the dew of Tchias HaMeisim. So he said, maybe it just means that when you say Torah in somebody's name, when they're in the next world, their lips move. When they say Allah in your name and a person is already in the next world, his lips move in the grave. So again, it's no raya to Tchias HaMeisim in general. I told you that when I was sitting Shiva for my Rebbetzin, Miriam Liba Bas Reb Aaron, today is a day of memory for me, because today was our anniversary, March 17th. It was always easy to remember because it was St. Patrick's Day. For those that remember, it was the day that we lost our car. Ruven, you remember that story when we lost our car? Yeah. But anyway, so when I was sitting Shiva, Reb David came, and I was telling over stories of Chesed, of Mim Libi. So he said, just like it says that if you say over Torah in the name of a man, their lips move in the grave. If you say over the acts of Chesed of a woman, her lips also move in the grave. Until Rav Gamliel told them a proof that they accepted. What we say in Kriya Shema, Asher nishba Hashem lavoseichem loseis lohem. The land that Hashem swore to your forefathers to give to them. Now, lachem loy nemar, it doesn't say to you, el lahem, that he's going to eventually give it to them. Mikan l'tchias hameisim min haTorah. V'yeshaim min hamikra hazeh amalahem, the famous pasuk, v'atem adveikim b'Hashem alikeichem, you who cleave to Hashem your God, chayim kulchem hayom. You all live today. Now, well, obviously, everybody that's standing is living today. What does that mean? Pshita d'chaim kulchem hayom. Rather, ma hayom kulchem kayamim, just like today. Everybody is alive. Afla olam haba, so also in olam haba kulchem kayam, and we derive that from the extra word hayom. Now, shalu raimiyim es Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya. The Romans asked Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya, and remember, Rabbi said we're going to have 25 days of these Gemaras. So the Gemaras fill us with important ideas of Emunah and Torah. Shalu raimiyim es Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya. Minayin sha'kadosh baruch hu mechayim eisim. How do we know that Hashem resurrects the dead? V'yodea ma she'osid liyos, and He knows what's in store for us in the future. Amalu travayu min hamikra hazeh. You know both from this pasuk. Shenemar v'yom Hashem el Moshe hincha shoychev yimaisecha v'kam. You will lie down and you will get up. So that shows that this Tchias HaMeisim. And ha'om hazeh v'zana, this nation will go and follow idolatry, so Hashem knows what's going to be. So they asked him, v'dilma v'kam ha'om hazeh v'zana. Maybe v'kam is only going on ha'om hazeh v'zana. And it's not going on Moshe Rabbeinu that he'll get up. So he said, at least you have proof for half of your question, that Hashem knows what's going to be. He knows what's going to happen. How does Hashem know? How do we know that Hashem will resurrect the dead? And He knows what's going to be. Shenamar hinach shaychev aveisecha v'kam, and the nation will go and they will stray.
Rabbi Weiss?
Yeah.
Isn't it a little unusual that last part of the sugya called them actually Romans instead of the evil people? I thought that was the way the Gemara...
When we referred to the nation, we referred to Malchus Risha. But here we're referring to particular Romans. It wasn't a question of the whole nation.
Wouldn't it have been better to bring a raya from, let's say, Mitzrayim, where Hashem told Avram, your children are going to be, and it actually came true? So that's a better raya than just saying something that will come true, but hasn't yet come true.
So the Rishonim say that they wanted to know, where do we know that Hashem knows the result of how people will exercise their free will? Now, Tanya, Amar Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Yaisi, B'davar zeh ziyafti sifrei minim. With this proof, I showed that the books of the heretics are a forgery. Shehayu Aimrim, they used to say, Ein tchias ha-meisim in ha-Torah. Amarti lahem ziyaftem toiraschem, you forged the Torah, v'lo yelisem b'yetchem klum. She'atem Aimrim ein tchias ha-meisim in ha-Torah. Well, Hari Aimer, he kares ha-nefesh ahi, this soul will be cut off, avoyna ba, and they'll have their sin in them. He kares ba'ilam hazeh, they'll be cut off in this world. Avoyna ba le'emes, when they'll have a sin, if they're already cut off in this world, what does avoyna ba go on? Lav l'olam haba, it goes on olam haba. So you see a source for olam haba. Amalei a papal abaya v'leimelu tramvayu me kares. Let him tell them that the perfect proof is he kares by lamazet, he kares olam haba. He said he didn't give them that proof because they would say that dibur Torah kalashim ne'adam. Inu aviyamar le dibur Torah kalashim ne'adam. The Torah speaks in the common vernacular where people repeat things for emphasis. Kitanoi. Indeed, it's a machlokes tanoim. He kares by lamazet. Cut off in this world, tikaris l'olam haba. Cut off in the next world, divrei Rabbi Kiva. Amalei Rabbi Shmuel v'alek far nemar. There's another pasuk that says karis. Es Hashem hu megadef v'nichrasa. So if it says v'nichrasa, and then he karis, what, there are three worlds? V'chi shleisha elamis yesh. Ela v'nichrasa b'olam hazeh. He karis l'olam haba. He kares, that's just the common vernacular. Divrei Torah kalashim ne'adam. Says, but what did they do with avoyna ba? Bein Rabbi Shmuel, bein Rabbi Akiva, avoyna ba my oven leg. What did they do with the words avoyna ba? L'kidesanya. Yochel, I would think that he gets kares for blasphemy. Afilu asa tshuva, like Barry asked, is this even if a person does tshuva? Only if he dies with the sin. Shala Cleopatra Malchus Esrameya. This is not the Cleopatra that married Shlomo HaMelech, because she of course wasn't alive at the time of Rameir. Cleopatra was a generic name for a queen, just like Paro was a generic name for a king in Egypt. So this was a Cleopatra that was at the time of Rameir. Shala Cleopatra Malchus says Rameir. Amra, she said, Yodana dechaya shechve. She says, I know that the dead will come to life. I know that. D'chsiv v'yitzitzu me'ir, they will sprout from the city ke'esav ha'aretz, like the grass of the land. So she knew about Tchias HaMesim. But she says, I have a question. When the dead get up, will they get up naked? Or will they get up with clothing? El kishein oimden arumim, are they going to stand up naked? Or are they going to be with their clothing? So he said to her, Amala kal v'chaimer mechita, a kal v'chaimer from a wheat, or machita shenikpara aruma. When it's planted, it's a naked kernel. When it's planted, it's a naked kernel. yoytze bekama levushin, when it comes out with many coverings, right? With the chaff, with the stalk, it comes out with many coverings. Tzadikim shenikbarim belevusheim, tzaddik that's buried with tachrichim, with shrouds, alachas kama v'kama, that when he gets up, he's going to get up with clothing. Rabbi said, this is what we have to look forward to. Baruch Hashem. We're going to now do a chok. I know it's a busy night. Whew. After such a long daf, it's going to be a bit of a challenge, but we're going to do it. L'fum tzara agra. Also, I want to say that I do not yet have a sponsor for the main chumash here. So somebody please come through and come up to the plate. Text me 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. I would also like to say a very big thank you to the shir. I got the beautiful shalach manas, the tremendous gift for my wife and I for the Lamppost restaurant. It came in a huge amount of money for that taking my wife out, which, by the way, is it's a very proper gift, because, Rabbi Kiva said when he saw his wife, Rachel, after 24 years, and they started to push her away, they didn't know who she was, and he told them, Shali v'shalacha shalahi. That which is mine, that which is yours, is hers. And to a very great extent, that's true, that the fact that I'm able to learn now, and the fact that I'm able to prepare my shiurim in a good state of mind, is due to my wife Shashi's love of Torah, and therefore it's a very, very fitting gift. I want to thank all of you for participating in that, and to thank Shelley especially for putting it together. And we should share many Purims with happiness.
Amen.
Okay, now we're going to set up for the chok.